With the college football playoff semifinals upon us, the question comes into play going into the Orange Bowl. Can the Penn State Nittany Lions offense overcome the stingy Notre Dame defense? Or will Riley Leonard's three-headed rushing attack be foundered by the Penn State Nittany Lion front seven, led by its heavily touted and yet also banged up leader on defense at the edge position? Want to find out who won the Orange Bowl and how? Stay tuned to find out on Gridiron Gab Triple Option. Welcome back, Gabbers. Thank you all for joining us for another edition of Gridiron Gab Triple Option. Of course, you're gabbing with the one and only Mr. CeeLo here. And guys, I just want to take a minute before I do my housekeeping and just give my sincerest, heartfelt prayers to all those affected out in Los Angeles during this really, really trying time. I've never lost a home, but I'm very blessed and nonetheless, and you guys will be out in LA will be receiving my prayers and my utmost thoughts. I will continue to pray for you guys and think about you guys out in LA and hope you all are safe. I know there's some of you that are going through some stuff right now, but I promise you, you guys are in our hearts and our prayers. We're not just watching football, but we're thinking about you guys as well. Prayers up for you guys. Give you guys a great gab out and also a great big gab out to all the firefighters. We appreciate everything that you do, whether you're fighting fires or helping people get out of buildings or helping people in just so many ways, whether it's at car accidents. Gab out to my cousin who is a member of the Macon Fire Department and all you firefighters from all over the country. Thank you so much. And to all the people that have donated to the people out in Los Angeles, not just monetarily, but your time, your effort, people that have helped out in these shelters, your assistance is a blessing. And may God bless you all. Thank you so much. Well, let us go on and talk about the Orange Bowl. I know I'm a little bit late, but I had a few things that I had to say. I will do two parts on this. Because ultimately, now what comes into play is something to do with Notre Dame being unique in itself. But let us do a little bit of housekeeping first, shall we? Just want to give a big gab out to my man Brad. Thank you so much, buddy, for always being there and listening to the show. Hope you're doing great, my friend. I haven't seen and talked to you for a while, but I'm sure you're doing good. I have had some other people, like a friend of mine named Jay. He hit me up and said he liked what I was doing, told me to keep up the good work, and I appreciate that. Love and respect to you, Brad. I appreciate you, brother. I know Indy still rocks, man. I appreciate it. Go Irish. Oh, man. Well, let us get into Penn State versus Notre Dame, as Notre Dame was able to pull out a 27-24 win over the Penn State Nittany Lions. Now, I want to say, in defense of James Franklin, I'm going to get into the comment that he made that he should have kept his mouth closed. Because the reality of it is, when you play a game of this magnitude, just defer the question. That is what I would do every single time when you ask a question like that. Don't get into that. But I will get into that later. But this was a game, as an Irish fan, I looked at this game and I said, this game's over. especially when you look at the first half. When you look at how Penn State, I don't want to say controlled the line of scrimmage the way the narrative was at halftime. I want to say more along the lines that Penn State got more push and more, I guess you could say, traction in this game. It felt more like Franklin and his guys really established the line of scrimmage, and I don't want that to go neglected or go by the wayside of this game, because realistically, Penn State dominated all but a handful of minutes of this game. I would say majority of it. And it looks a lot like the Georgia game in a lot of situations. Although this game was a little bit more high scoring. And when you look at this game, anybody that watched this game, if anybody thinks Notre Dame really dominated in this game, then they really did not watch this game. They look at the score and they think, because you look at it, Notre Dame scored 27 points. They scored 17 points in the fourth quarter. And, I mean, you look at the statistics and you say, okay, 23 first downs to 20 for Penn State. But here is where the game, to me, was won at. Notre Dame was 11 of 17 on third downs. Penn State was 3 of 11. Now, I know I just said that Penn State dominated this game, but the reality of it is they did. I mean, Notre Dame was able to move the ball some, but when you have 2 turnovers in a game that are very costly, you know, you had, even though Penn State was not really able to translate them into, I get that, well, they did translate 10 points. No, excuse me. Yeah, it was 10 points. And the truth of the matter is the one turnover that Penn State had, you're going to have a lot of people that are going to question this. But I'll get into that in more detail. But when I look at this game, and I was actually surprised at the time of possession, Notre Dame lost this by 8 seconds. I mean, it seemed like Notre Dame consistently could not get off the field, and it felt like they could not slow down this running attack by the Penn State Nittany Lions. It just seemed like that Nicholas Singleton and Katron Allen were consistently they did not run the ball badly. They had 204 yards on the ground, surprisingly. And that's why you look at this, Notre Dame had 42 carries, 116 yards. What I equate this to is when I look on the flip side and I say, okay, Drew Allar was 12 of 23, 135 yards. And then you look at Riley Leonard's numbers. He was 15 of 23, 223 yards. And which really was a combination of the 54-yard touchdown to Jaden Greathouse, and then you had the 36-yard wheel route to Aeneas Williams, which was absolutely brilliant. And I'll discuss that on the next show when we talk about the national championship game. But I was actually thoroughly surprised when I saw that play called. And I thought that was a major turning point in this game. Well, excuse me, I'll call that a minor turning point. The major turning point was when Riley Leonard went out of this game right before halftime. This dude, if any of you are not familiar, I've been very familiar because I am an Irish fan. Steve Angeli is not getting enough credit for what he was the catalyst for. Now, a lot of people say, well, he didn't score a touchdown. Well, he came in with 6 of 7 for 44 yards. And then he also allowed something else to happen. He allowed Penn State to get on its heels. The reality of it was, there was nothing going on throwing the football with Riley Leonard. He got majority of his passing yards in the second half. Whether it was the wheel route to Aeneas Williams or the Jaden Greathouse touchdown, which was a beautiful play. It was an excellent play and an unfortunate play for Penn State. Unfortunately, when you play man coverage with a one deep safety, that's bound to happen. You got a guy fall down, and this is not as easy as it looks, because if Jaden Greathouse is not the primary guy, which on that particular play he was not, Leonard's got to look over there. And I'm telling you something, if Joe Burrow had it to do over again in that Super Bowl against the Rams when Jamar Chase completely obliterates Jalen Ramsey, Jalen Ramsey's on his back. All he's got to do is just fling it up there, and that's going to be a touchdown. So it's not always whether or not a guy beats a guy. It's a situation where The fortune went Notre Dame's way, and they capitalized. So there again, to me, and Steve Angeli coming in and opening up the passing game really gave Penn State something else to look for. I truly believe in that second half, they came out with the impression that they were going to be facing Angeli. And now that's not to say that Penn State did not recover, because they did get some stops running the football. I thought Matt Denbrock did a phenomenal job yet again instilling Jaden Thomas on that reverse, that wide receiver handoff. He got 18 in this game. He did it at the Georgia game, and it was a huge play. I think he's a great guy to get this football to. Jadarian Price had 7 carries, 13 yards in this, and he had a long of 12. But other than that, he was pretty much balled up. Then you have Jeremiah Love, who had 11 carries, 45 yards. And I'm going to be honest with you, probably the momentum shifter of this game was when he was stopped at the 2 to 1.5 yard line, and he just kept moving it. Because most people, when they see Jeremiah Love, they think finesse, speed back. They don't think power. I mean, this guy got hit by at least 4 guys. He still powered his way in, and that was massive. Because we all know the better these teams defensively are, it ain't easy to get in there. I mean, we saw Texas get in situations where they had the football and they couldn't get in. We'll talk about that game, but needless to say, everybody sits there and every coach will make the statement: if you can't get a yard, you don't deserve to score. Sometimes the opposing defense is just that good, or your offense coordinator just does not make the right call. But really looking at this, Penn State controlled majority of this. Well, it's hard to say majority. To me, Penn State controlled a large part of this game, because when you went into halftime and you saw Notre Dame was down 10-3, the first thing you thought was, and that 3 points was very important, because Penn State was up 10-0. And a lot of people are going to look back at Penn State and have that situation where Aller actually had that throw to the back, out of the backfield, and he had 6, but he threw it behind. See, a lot of people are going to say, oh, well, you say you don't talk about people. Look, everybody's got first-round grades on Drew Aller. I don't. I just don't. I don't care if you're a 5-star guy coming out of high school. My whole point is decision-making is the most important thing with a 5-star. And to me, that was like Gunnar Stockton. Gunnar Stockton he looked like a 5-star. And any Georgia fan that wants to sit there and run their mouth about, oh, Carson Beck this and Carson Beck. Look, Gunnar Stockton won a SEC championship game when you guys were trailing, and you being Georgia fans, and all of you out here that say, oh, well, Georgia didn't have its starting quarterback. Gunnar Stockton beat Texas. What's the difference? The reality here is, I look at a football team in Penn State that really has not had their guy. I get it. The receivers are a little above average. You know, you're not going to get scrubs go to Penn State. You're going to get some above average receivers. But let's give Notre Dame some credit. Let's finally give this team some props. Because the truth of the matter is, you could keep saying what Scam Newton keeps saying about, oh, they ain't in a conference. What's the argument going to be when they win the national championship? You can't just show up like you could do during the BCS, Scam, and just play one game. You got to play not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4. The only way you play less than 4 games is unless you get a bye, basically win your conference championship. So Scam, while you sitting there running your mouth about getting in a conference, guess what? There are teams that are in a conference that has to play 4 games. What's your point? And I would argue Notre Dame has a tougher schedule than a lot of teams, because guess what they have to do? Travel. You don't know nothing about that. Notre Dame goes from coast to coast, border to border to play teams. Nobody in the SEC does that. And you can sit there and you can cry and say that doesn't matter. Oh, yes, it does. Jet lag is real. Jet lag is very real. You get on a plane and fly for 3, 4, maybe 4 hours, and then got to get off the plane and play a game? That's just the realistic truth about it. and to sit here and try to call it anything but really tough, it's somebody don't know what they're talking about. And you've shown several days you don't know what you're talking about. But the way I looked at this game coming down the stretch is Notre Dame was establishing itself. They were waiting for the right moments, and Mike Denbrook did some phenomenal things calling this game. It was just so amazing watching this guy operate. Now, the first half wasn't so good. It really was not. And Notre Dame looked like a team that was out here saying, okay, y'all don't think we can pass the football. Okay, let me show you. Ironically, we look at this game and we say, if I were to tell you that Penn State was going to outrush Notre Dame and they were going to lose this game, you'd think I was lying, weren't you? 204 to 116. And they both had 42 rushing attempts. But the penalties were pretty even, considering there was a horrible pass interference call given to Penn State, which gave them a touchdown. But then you look the way Notre Dame was able to come back and just do what they did, considering that Jaden Greathouse wow. I mean, to him to run past my guy and basically have him fall down is just nothing short of touchdown Jesus. I know you like that, Brad. But, we see what the Irish were able to do, because there were times in this third quarter where I was looking at this game and I was saying to myself, this is not good. And for no more than what the Irish have, which is a lot, they've got a lot of wide receivers on that bench that everybody in the country just disrespects. A lot of guys, from Bo Collins to Jaden Greathouse, to Jordan Faison. And that's the thing. This was a guy that got all the press for last game. And here he comes yet again with a new wrinkle, which is Jaden Greathouse. No Jordan Faison, really. I mean, he had his moments, but you look at this game and you say, here we go. That's what you say. Here we go. And what was really tough is that Notre Dame went up 17. They scored 17 unanswered and took a 17-10 lead. And then just as soon as the Penn State Nittany Lions came back and tied it up, Riley Leonard comes back and makes a really impressive interception. As far as Leonard was looking to hit Mitchell Evans, and the beautiful defensive play call where he just drops back into coverage and makes a very athletic interception. Sutton did he jumped up, looked like a wide receiver. And from there, Penn State takes it 39 yards in for 6 and takes a 7-point lead. But here come the Irish. 7 plays, 81 yards. Capped off by the 2nd and 8, Jaden Greathouse 54-yard touchdown where he shaked and baked the defender onto the ground and then juked the safety on the ground. And this is why I say, for Notre Dame fans to say the Irish don't have any playmakers, or even for the entire country to say the Irish don't have playmakers at the wide receiver position, they do. They do. And I need to say this right here for the entire world. Riley Leonard gets a lot of press because he can run the football. When you listen to analysts, they say the issue with Notre Dame is they can't pass the football. They can't pass the football. Well, to me, that got started with Steve Angeli. I thought that was immense when he came in. I don't know if it was by design. I would have hoped it would have been by design, because needless to say, or it was or divine intervention. Because there was nothing going right for the Irish passing game. I mean, there were a handful of plays, but for the most part, it was Notre Dame trying to run this thing, and it just was not happening. And the reality of it is, Notre Dame did get Mitchell Evans involved. Got him involved quite a bit, and I thought tried to get him a little too involved. I know a lot of people are going to say you can never do that when you've got a guy who is just as effective and as efficient as Tyler Warren, an award winner and possibly a low first, second round pick and going into the NFL draft come April. I was very impressed with Tyler Warren. They put him in a lot of Wildcat situations. He's very athletic. He also had a very good catch and run where he showed that he's just as nimble as Mitchell Evans and a lot of the other guys that are in the National Football League. He's going to be a great player on Sunday. But ultimately, as I said, the guy at the controls is the one that has the most, had the most issues in this game. Drew Aller was not that good. He was not that dude. And ultimately, when you go back and you look at what it was 12 of 23, 135 yards. He basically had just over 10 yards a toss, and he had 75 of his 135 yards to one Tyler Warren. So, contrary to Notre Dame, you're looking at a football team that everybody knows who's getting the football here. What's so beautiful about this is you had Jaden Greathouse for Notre Dame, 7 grabs, 105, and a touchdown. Running back Aeneas Williams, 5 catches, 66 yards, and he had that 36-yard wheel route. Of course, Mitchell Evans, 5 for 58, 0 touchdowns. Bo Collins did not record a catch. Jordan Faison had 2. Chris Mitchell had 1 for 7. Jeremiah Love recorded a grab, but no Bo Collins. He's been struggling, I think, with either a hammy or a knee issue, or is it an ankle? One of the two. But the reality of it is, with Notre Dame, you don't know. And I think that is ultimately why a lot of the guys that could normally be high-end number 2s or number 1s on other teams are perfectly okay with staying in South Bend, because they understand you don't ever know when your number is going to be called, when you're going to have a hot night, when you're going to have that night. And that's the tough thing about Notre Dame. Most people don't think about that. Whereas you have Jeremiah Smith for Ohio State, that's where you got to go. You got to start. You got to stop this guy. And ultimately, as we go down the statistical categories, you got Zakee Wheatley had 16 total tackles for the Penn State Nittany Lions, also recording a sack. Kobe King, 9 tackles. Danny Dennis Sutton had 6 tackles and 2 sacks. This guy was all over the place. Abdul Carter recorded a sack. He had 5 tackles to go with that sack. Keziah Izzard had a sack to go along with his 6 tackles. And looking here, you had, of course, like I said, Danny Dennis Sutton stuffed the stat sheet. Zakee Wheatley stuffed the stat sheet as well. He had a sack and an interception to go with his 16 tackles. So Penn State's got some really good players on this football team. And needless to say, they've got some players on this defense. They really do. And they have nothing to hang their heads about. Disappointment would be a large word to use. But unfortunately, in games like this, somebody's got to win, somebody's got to fall. Looking over at, I don't think it'd be overstated how important one Jordan Clark has been for the Fighting Irish. His coverage ability in these special situations has been, and I'm not just saying it because he's Ryan Clark's boy, but he has been huge. Donovan Hinish has been good. Leonard Moore, once again, coming out there and just straight balling out. Junior Tuialamaka was a big deal out there. Christian Gray had the big interception right there at the end. People have just been picking on this kid, and I'm telling you, when you get to picking on a kid that has a heart of gold and has nerves of steel and just will keep coming back at you, that is the best asset you can have as a defensive back. There's just no getting around it. Jalen Sneed had big tackles. 6 tackles on the day. Drake Bowen had another great game. 8 tackles. Xavier Watts, the captain, 8 tackles of his own right. Jack Kaiser, 10 tackles, the captain, doing his thing. Bryce Young, 4 tackles. Kingston Villamuasa, he had 4 tackles on the night. Gabriel Rubio stepping in for Riley Mills, 4 tackles. He has been a huge asset. Rod Hurd, Jaden Osbury. These guys just been straight balling out. And, of course, Howard Cross had 3 tackles. But backing up and looking at this game from the standpoint of Notre Dame went into the fourth quarter, as I said, with the game tied at 10, then they come out and they tack on another score. And this turned into a game of uh-oh. And it was going to be a question of which team was going to be going to stand tall in the face of adversity. And I remember hearing everybody questioning this now, but I remember hearing Greg McElroy say, I trust Drew Aller. And the thing that I had a problem with is this is a guy that was barely over 50% for the whole game. I remember saying to myself, I wouldn't do it. But then you also got to think in the minds of James Franklin. I cannot let Notre Dame get me into the overtime period when I've got the ball and a chance to win it. I can't say I disagree with him on his decision. Now, I disagree because I'm a guy that's going to look at it as, hey, I'm running the football. And I felt like, to a degree, even though Notre Dame was stopping it, they weren't completely stopping it, if you know what I mean. Yes, there were times Penn State ran it, threw it, incomplete. Or there was times they would run it, throw it, run it, and it'd be third and short. And the truth of the matter is I thought James Franklin went for it more times than I initially thought they would ever go for it. Because, listen, James Franklin reminds me a lot of the old school type guys. They don't really want to go out there. They don't want to put their teams in positions, their defenses in very vulnerable situations. And I honestly thought that's what it boiled down to. I mean, they went for it twice and got it both times. So, needless to say, you can't argue, I think, ultimately, when he went for it, he made good on it. But there were times when I thought, he's finna go for this, and he didn't. So, and surprisingly, Marcus Freeman and the Irish did not go for it either on fourth down. So, looking at this game, like I said, it's a classic. And it boils down to the fact that two heavyweights went head-to-head. That's all you can ask. And as a college football fanatic or a fan, you got to love these type of games. Wasn't great for me because I was sweating my tail off. You know what I'm saying? I know, Brad, I was. I'm not even going to lie. I was sweating. But Notre Dame 27 and Penn State 24. As Notre Dame now has the longest win streak in the country at 13. And they will face off against the winner. As you already know, they will face off against the winner of the Ohio State and Texas game. You guys already know, but ultimately I have to put some suspense in you. But that game will be on Monday, and I will try to give you guys updates and highlights on who's playing and who's going to be on the sideline. But that's going to do it for us. Make sure you comment down below and let me know what you think of my analysis of this game. If you're a Penn State fan, like as I said before, you guys have nothing to hang your hats about. I know you're hurting because, trust me, when you are passionate about something, as I am, you know, it takes a while to get over it. So I wish James Franklin and his players, Abdul Carter's a good player. A lot of those guys out there are really, Sutton's a very good player. He caught my eye. So, of course, Tyler Warren, good luck to the NFL. But leave your comments down below and let me know what you think. Also, go to the Facebook page at Gridiron Gab Triple Option. I'm going to do my best as off-season approaches to stay more equipped with you guys and keep you guys in the loop. Also, go to my Instagram at Mr. CeeLo. Catch up all the shenanigans and things I will be gabbing about during the off season. Drop me a DM if you're interested in catching up with me sometime. But until the next time, same Gab channel, same Gab platform.